Modern technological development focuses almost exclusively on physical hardware, while the internal architecture of human cognition remains largely unmapped. Christopher McClure spent decades investigating this deficit, drawing from various esoteric disciplines to synthesize a more structured approach to consciousness. His life's work, the Platinum Jesus System, organizes global traditions into a 13-stage framework designed to operate like a predictable machine. McClure treats the system as a mechanical blueprint for reconfiguring human physiology and perception through specific, repeatable exercises. The 13 facets function as a sequence, layering specific geometric arrays onto the body's existing biological cycles. This structural labor aims to cultivate a secondary energetic blueprint known as the second body. McClure proposes that identifying with this blueprint creates a stable continuity for awareness, designed to remain intact regardless of the physical state of the body. To evaluate these claims, we must reconstruct the framework from its physiological base to its final, formless conclusion. This analysis views spiritual evolution strictly as a matter of applied biomechanical geometry. The model begins with the Dantian, a physical center in the lower abdomen. Every subsequent stage depends on this physical anchor. The system builds its first dynamic layer by locking onto the biological pulse, one of 3 primary cycles used to ground the structural grid. Stable biological processes provide the underlying current needed to sustain the abstract geometries introduced in later stages. McClure's framework utilizes the physical vessel as the mandatory hardware required to boot up the metaphysical network. The 6-pointed star maps competing forces. The downward triangle represents involution, the upward evolution. A vertical axis, the infinite sensate spine, strikes through the center. McClure compares the body to a train station on a track extending infinitely in both directions. This vertical track is tied directly to the second biological cycle, the constant stream of physical sensation. The 6-pointed star is then rotated 90 degrees to lie flat, encircling the vertical spine like a horizontal equator. This hoop around the tree geometry, shared by many indigenous American cultures, incorporates the third physiological cycle, respiration. By layering these axes, the system binds disparate cultural metaphors into a single functional coordinate system. Active mechanisms now operate within this grid. Mantra, the internal or external use of speech, directs intention towards specific points in physical space. The practice of active gaze, derived from Tibetan traditions, requires the practitioner to track the internal and external contours of their environment. At a critical pivot, the who the what exercise forces the attention to reverse, requiring the practitioner to observe the source of their own observation. These cognitive exercises function as software, running on the geometric hardware established in the physical stages. The most complex layer involves the I Ching breath codes, which translate ancient divination data into immediate physical action. The mapping is precise. The 6 lines of the I Ching's 64 hexagrams correspond directly to the 6 segments of the interlacing triangles. Solid lines, symbolizing heaven, dictate an out-breath. Broken lines, symbolizing earth, dictate an in-breath. Applying these patterns to specific acupuncture nodes creates the basis for localized healing, while superimposing them on external objects completes the process of grokking. McClure has essentially created an algorithmic respiratory language, turning symbolic data into executable physiological commands. The system eventually escalates into 3 dimensions. The flat star extrudes vertically, forming the interlaced pyramids of the Merkaba. This 3-dimensional geometry features exactly 24 distinct structural faces. Each face correlates to a letter of the Greek alphabet, adding another layer of cross-cultural data to the practitioner's mental grid. The practitioner must now mentally sustain this multi-dimensional construct while simultaneously managing the underlying breath codes and biological cycles. The final stage collapses this complex geometry into a single point, leaving only a pure black void. This is embodying the absolute. From this formless void, the practitioner stabilizes the second body we identified at the start of the system. Identifying with this secondary blueprint provides the practitioner with an energy grid that remains unaffected by biological decay. The intense structural work of the previous 12 stages acts as scaffolding, used to isolate and stabilize this internal architecture. While the training is individual, McClure's ultimate objective focuses on a shift in the collective human entity. Figures such as Jesus or the Buddha are traditionally viewed as individuals who successfully actualized this secondary body architecture. McCour suggests that individual mastery may no longer be sufficient for the current scale of human complexity. In this model, the traditional figure of Kalki is reinterpreted as a collective entity, the human race itself, synchronized through the use of inner technology.